Welcome to the AVAIL podcast, where we dig deep and talk about the art of leadership. My name is Virgil Sierra, and today we're sitting down with Cameron Singh. Cameron is a senior leader in the aviation industry who received a doctorate in executive leadership and has a passion for equipping the next generation of leaders. In this episode, Cameron will unpack fresh insights from his latest book release entitled Navigation and Discovery, and he'll share tips and principles that helped him navigate the responsibility of senior leadership roles at a young age. So lean in, leaders, and let's get started. Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the AVAIL podcast, where we dig deep and talk about the art of leadership. My name is Virgil Sierra, lead pastor of Vertical Church, aka Iglesia Vertical in South Florida. We are one church, two languages. I'm your host right here on AVAIL. Every week there's a new episode with an amazing leader, and today we have an amazing leader. I've enjoyed getting to know him. You're going to love this podcast. None other than Cameron Singh is on the AVAIL podcast with us. Cameron, it's good to have you here on AVAIL. How does it feel?
Pastor Virgil, love your energy. Thank you so much for having me, and it's truly an honor to be a part of this podcast.
Woohoo! You love the energy. I know you love my intro music. I know it. Cameron, I think today's conversation is going to be great because we're going to be talking about your book, Navigation and Discovery, a path of navigating and discovering through your journey of faith. I'm looking forward to kind of talking about that. Before we jump into that, I always love for our AVAIL audience to just lean in and get to know a little bit about our guest. So who is Cameron Singh?
Yeah, so I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, growing up by San Francisco Airport. And due to being in close proximity at an airport, I fell in love with airplanes and aviation. So I've had the honor of working in the aviation industry and now a senior leader at an aviation company. And through my experience at being in the marketplace, I really built a passion for leadership. And I truly love leadership, studied leadership. And my passion is to help other young people learn more about leadership and to strive for higher.
Yeah, that's great. One of the things I love, we have all kinds of leaders here on AVAIL, but you are a young leader. And I love that because I think more and more we need to equip our, young people to step into roles, even if it's maybe earlier than most, like in your case, and even authoring a book. This is awesome. Let's talk about the book. The book is Navigation and Discovery. Why don't you just unpack for us, why did you write this book? What's the heart behind it? And obviously, why would it be a good idea for us to get it?
Mm-hmm. Well, first and foremost, I've been so blessed to be surrounded by Sam Chan and his team, Martijn Van Tilborg, to be able to partner with me to get this message out, because it's been a message that's on my heart for years. And I really wanted to put out really how I went through my college years and early 20s and navigated through that journey. And so I was raised in the church through my mom. And, once you move out of the home, a lot of questions start coming to mind. Mm-hmm. You start getting to experience the world. And I really, there was times when I didn't want faith in my life, but it was truly a journey of navigating and discovering who and where God has called me to. And so I really wanted to share that journey as authentically as I could. And I think it was packaged very well. And it's been amazing to see the lights that it shed to not only people that I know within my network, but also to other young people that I don't even know.
Yeah, that's good. I think one of the beautiful things in life is obviously we don't know everything, and then seeing how the Lord begins to unravel things today that he began working in us, yesterday, or a few years before. Why do you think it's important? Why do you think this concept, this idea of navigation and discovery is important for people of all ages, and especially leaders?
Yeah, I think it's important because, there are a lot of books out there today that give you the recipe for success.
Right.
This is the way you live your purpose, passion, and calling. There's so many books on that, but I just didn't find anyone like sharing their story and their struggles.
Mm,
And that's the one thing that I wanted to do is really share my story as authentic as I could, because um, what the young people are facing today, my generation, the Gen Zs, and I don't know what the new one is called, but it's a different world today, and many of the challenges people are facing now are not ones that the Gen Xers and baby boomers have
right.
experienced, and it's a different world. And I think a lot of in today's world, there's a lot of lonely people, a lot of lost people, just trying to find direction. And so the purpose of this was to say, hey, I experienced this as well. You're not the only one, and this is my story, and hopefully you learn something from it. And one thing I don't provide is, hey, these are your 5 steps to success or your purpose
Sure.
in calling.
Yeah, when you and I were talking, preparing, for this episode, you did mention how a lot of times, books will talk about, discover your purpose, but they
Mhm.
don't address the fact that sometimes your purpose molds and shapes and shifts. And can you share a little bit, maybe on a personal level? I mean, was that the case with you? You mentioned a little bit about maybe your
Right.
college years, having some facing challenges, but how do you see, just from your experience in people's lives, even young people like yourself, where sometimes it's a shifting thing.
Well, that's so interesting because I didn't realize my passion and calling would change over time until I look back. And I've always wanted to become an airline pilot, fly for the big jumbo jets. And I quickly came to find out that in college, that was not going to happen. And so I was in a dilemma because I grew up always wanting to fly. And so I was so mad at God, like, why can't I do this? And, come to fruition as I graduated, I started in a different sector of the aviation industry, the private jet side,
Hmm.
which I really fell in love with. And so I've been in that business for the last 10, 12 years and truly love it. And then I've always wanted to pursue a doctorate, and I got denied by the aviation program like 3 times.
Wow.
And I was in a new leadership role at the time at work, and I'm like, hey, I need to learn more about leadership. And that's why I went on and studied leadership. And I never knew I would enjoy it so much that I'm, doing a leadership podcast and doing work in leadership and leadership training, and, writing this book for young people. I didn't know I'd be sitting here writing a book. So it's amazing to see how God changes your purpose and calling, and has you experience different things in your life, and then you blink and it's just hard to believe.
Yeah, that's good. There's a few concepts that you talk about in the book that I want to go into, but something just came to my mind right now as you were
Mhm.
talking, and I think it's just valuable in these moments to just share, kind of authentically. But part of your navigation, part of your discovery was finding yourself at a much younger age than most in senior leadership positions, right? I think there's some great insights we could learn from you, both young leaders who are kind of in similar situations or would like to be as yourself, and maybe even older dogs, right? Older leaders who have the opportunity to open the way for some young leaders in the future. Can you just share a little bit about your navigation and discovery of finding yourself all of a sudden in a position or role where maybe you were the only one in your decade group in that position?
Yeah, it was a very difficult journey. I think I came out of college with the impression that I could be the CEO of any company, came out with a huge ego. And once I started in the marketplace, started my first job, and realized, no, there's a journey that I have to go
Hmm.
through. I have to put in the time, the work, and the effort to experience different frontline roles and work my way forward. And that meant staying focused, but also setting myself apart from the people I worked with. And that was very difficult at times because I was 18, 19, 20. I had the privilege of having awesome mentors surround
Mm-hmm.
me, both in the industry and out the industry, and help me along the journey. And that was critical. And through that process, I think what helped me is having that humility that, hey, I need to learn, I need to put in the time, the
Hmm.
effort, put in the grind, and I saw the fruits of that very quickly.
Yeah, that's good. I
Yeah.
imagine, not in the same industry. I'm a pastor, and also, I was in the health professions when I got my master's degree as an occupational therapist. But I can remember along my journey experiencing moments as well where I'm the youngest one in the room right now, or I'm in a position, a role where, so most of my counterparts are a little bit older, and it could feel intimidating and overwhelming sometimes, and B,
Hmm.
if there's not some maturity and some ability to kind of step up, it could be a challenge. Now, I know on your journey, and you even have a few chapters where you kind of highlight some specific, I guess, principles and or practices that have helped you, and I know are going to help others. Can you talk about? There's one chapter that you have that's entitled "Owning the Room." Owning the room. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, owning the room was an interesting topic that sort of came up through reading a book and actually experiencing it. Is well, there's two sides of owning the room. During my early years in the aviation industry, yeah, I had to be very intentional in developing relationships with the people around me. And once I developed those really good relationships and people knew what I wanted to do, they rallied around me.
Mm-hmm.
They gave me permission to own the room. The leaders that I was encountering, they gave me permission to own the room. It's because I put so much deposits into those relationships. And I think humility has a lot to do with that. um, putting in the work, putting in the time, putting in the effort in people on a one-on-one level. And don't be afraid to get, I wasn't afraid to be innovative and share my ideas with people on, hey, we could do this better. We can do this better. Or we don't need to use all this paper for this.
Mm.
So I was sharing all my ideas and people started listening and appreciating the value that I added. And so that almost gave me the permission to own the room. So I didn't go in and start owning the room. That was something that what I was given permission for and something that I earned.
Yeah.
And I know it can be difficult for young people to own the room, but what I do in the book is lay out a strategy on how my experience was in owning the room.
That's good. Just maybe on the practical side for a young leader who's leaning in right now, maybe what's one thought or one tip uh, uh, towards taking steps in really owning a room, even if you are the younger person or you don't have the voice yet?
I think don't be afraid to speak up. If you have an idea, speak up, even if it's a dumb idea, because I think early on, that's what I had issues with is I had all these
Yeah.
ideas, but I was holding it within because I wasn't confident in my own abilities. Like, why would I tell my CEO that you need to change this or X, Y, and Z? It's speak up, share your ideas. When you think something doesn't look right, speak up and say something because I remember looking back at all those opportunities where I said, no, this is not right, or we need to find another alternative. People actually listened and it actually added value. And that's what you want to do wherever you're at, whether it's school or in the work environment or in the church, is you want to add value.
That's huge. I think this is a great opportunity because I think everybody can lean into this conversation. Um, Cameron, if you had the privilege and opportunity to sit in front of a couple hundred older senior leaders, right? You're
Hmm.
Cameron Singh. Thanks for coming. We've invited you to come and bring your perspective as a young senior leader and somebody who has had the experience at a young age. And these are older senior leaders who are wanting to understand because their general tendency is to think, I just need older people with more wisdom and
Yeah.
experience in these roles of senior leadership. What are some of the points or the topics you might touch on to encourage them to consider? Hey, sometimes getting some younger, fresh people in these positions might be an advantage.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk out there in the mainstream media about building the next generation workforce, but I think what it comes down to and what I was looking for back then was time. Give time to your people, your young people, and get to know them and their aspirations, and do what you can to support them. Because, and even if it's supporting for them to exit of your organization or group to move on to something greater. I think that's the one thing that I appreciated throughout my journey is people gave me the time. People gave me that one-on-one time. They invested their time. They followed up. And that for me meant a lot. And oftentimes, these big organizations, it's difficult to do,
Right.
but to take that effort and to take out that time to invest and mentor, it goes a long way. I mean, there's some conversations that I've had over the years that I still remember to this day. It's because a leader gave me that time.
Yeah, I think we tend to underestimate the power of a few moments, and it doesn't have to be like, oh, you have to block off an hour and a half with each person, but just some time, some hey, you matter, how are you doing, like that makes a big difference, I think. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes if we've been leading for a long time, which I would say probably, some older senior leaders maybe have been leading for a long time, can forget that how important that
Yes.
is. That's
Mhm.
good. That's good advice. Another thing you talk about in your book, and we also talked a little bit about is the aspect of rejection and failure. A lot of times, man, we can get discouraged. We can get easily discouraged when we're facing rejection and or failure or both. How do you keep moving forward in situations like that? And how can these failures actually play a role in growth and development and next steps?
Yeah, failures and rejection. That was something that I experienced more than I can imagine, more than I would have ever
Hmm.
imagined. And I didn't know that this was such an important part of the journey. I've made so many mistakes being a young leader, especially not having that experience of leadership or even just work experience. So I
Yeah.
made so many mistakes. But what kept me moving forward was having the right advocates, having the right mentors, and I know some people listening may not have that, but also staying focused on what your goals are.
Mhm.
Where do you want to go? I always kept my eye on where I wanted to go, and faith was a huge part of that. I had to trust in God that I was going in the right direction, and one thing I didn't realize is these failures helped me learn and grow.
Hmm.
If I didn't experience some of the rejection and failures that I had, I would not be where I am today. Like one of the rejections I was telling you about was um, being denied 3 times in an aviation program.
Hmm.
If I had not have had those rejections, I would have not studied leadership and built my passion with leadership.
Okay, so we heard a little bit about a rejection. Let me go to the other side. Just since you're already down, let's take advantage, then we'll come back up. Failures. Can you share maybe a failure that you had along your journey, whether it was, one of your first jobs, roles, positions, maybe it was in the process of, developing, something you've been working in the private aviation industry. Can you share one of those? Can you, with humility, so we can learn?
Um, I used to, especially as a leader. I did not know what I was doing when I first stepped into my first leadership role. I went from working the aircraft ramp, airport ramp, to leading over 200, 300 people, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I kept on making so many mistakes with our customers, and our customer managers were so upset. They were calling me and I had no idea how to handle it. But what I did is I every time I made a mistake, I went to our customer's office right away and dealt with it head on instead of trying to beat around the bush. And they respected me even more, especially as a young leader, because the impression that I guess young leaders give off is they're arrogant, they're not going to follow, they're going to do their own
Hmm.
thing. Um, so I learned a lot through that experience.
Yeah, that's good. I love talking about this because, man, even as you're talking, I'm thinking about my journey, my leadership journey, and my growth journey, and it's not always pretty, but it is
Mhm.
awesome to be able to say, hey, I'm not where I once was. I'm not where I want to be yet, there's still more room for growth, but I'm not where I once was, and there's even more hope. And one of the things that I have found in my journey that has been helpful to kind of cross some barriers, to break through difficult moments, and also just honestly just have some good advice is mentors. You talk about mentoring matters. That's one of your chapters in your book, Mentoring Matters. And I'm curious as to, in your journey, who are maybe two people that stand out as having been very influential, or maybe still are influential in your journey through leadership, in your navigation of, where does God want me and what should I do? Who are two people that stand out?
Well, there are two people that actually, Eric Kietla, he actually did the forward of the book, and he was my true champion. Once I started in the industry, he was an executive leader of the company at the time, and he really took me under his wing, took a risk, and really put his best foot forward out there throughout my journey
Hmm.
and even today. And I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for his close mentorship. The mentorship was both ways, though. I mentored him
Mm-hmm.
as giving different perspectives than the decision making that he did. So it was always a mentorship both ways, and I really enjoyed that. Another one is Pasquale, and he really taught me more about how to be both a leader and how to run a
Hmm.
business. And so I learned a lot from him, and he also endorsed the book. And those two people, I still stay in touch with them to this day, and they're my mentors to this day, and they keep championing him. I was just on a phone call with Pasquale today, and he's like, I'm proud of you, keep going. And so I really love being mentored by those two.
Yeah, I think it's huge to look back. As Dr. Sam Chan says, none of us got to where we are by ourselves, right? And I
Mhm.
think it's important to acknowledge that. Another thing that you mentioned that you think is really important for young leaders and in general, and leaders in general, is this aspect, and probably has been a big part of your journey, this aspect of personal branding and social media. Um, how do those play a role in today's culture, and how do you think those can be leveraged for growth and leadership?
Yeah, growing up sort of in the leadership and aviation space, I saw a lot of my peers not really putting out the best branding. And even some of the leaders that I knew over time didn't see them putting out the best foot forward in their social media. They were, not putting the best thing out there. And also within our organization, we had a lot of people that were our coworkers on social media and friends and followers and stuff like that. And so I made it really intentional and I remember my professor at San Jose State saying this is like, you want to put out a very good personal brand because, when you go out to apply for jobs, they look at everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so putting out a good personal brand, putting out a good social media presence where you share things that showcase who you are as a person and showcase who you are beyond your work. Because I think early on I defined myself everything I did based on work.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't showing what other aspirations or hobbies I
Mm-hmm.
had. So you want to show who you are as a person. I think that's so important to showcase. Not everything, of course, but who you are as a person because you never know who will come across your profile, your website, your branding, um, and you want to give a good recap of who you are.
Hmm. That's good. I was thinking, sometimes I ask this question because I think it's always interesting to hear the answer, but
Mhm.
um, what would you say is something that you wish you would have known before? Now you're a senior leadership leader in the aviation industry. What is something you wish you would have known before? Again, we all have to go through processes of making some mistakes along the journey, some failures, some rejection, but what is something that you wish, man, if I would have known this, and by the way, I could help some young leaders out here, uh, that would have made a big difference?
I wish I would have known that I would not be the CEO graduating college. I would not be an executive leader right out of
Hmm.
college. Because if I had known that, I would have had a different mindset coming out of college because I seen, and I also would have not put all my eggs in the basket in terms of defining myself based on my profession
Hmm.
because I think I almost lost myself. And I still see even people around my age and my peers is they're defining themselves based on what they do. And there's more to us as people than what we do. And so I wish I would have done that.
That's good. And based on that, and after this, I want to go ahead and share with people how they can get your book, how they can connect with you, how they can get more resources. But based on what you just said right now, there's so many things that you've already done and been involved in, and so many that you are even now in this season, that you're doing and that you're working on. But ultimately, when we talk about, ultimately at the end of the line, what do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered for being a person that was always there and making impact. And I actually attended a conference, church conference in Miami about a month ago, and they were talking about building a legacy. And it's never too early to start building a legacy. Normally people, when they're close to retirement, they start thinking about that. And I want to start that now. And I hope I've done a good job so far, but really making impact and helping the next generation strive for higher.
Why do you think? How do you think it would help for people to get your book? Your book specifically, navigation and discovery, a path of navigating and discovering through your journey of faith. How do you think it's going to help people? And why do you hope people grab the book?
I think it's going to help people learn from a story, and that's really the basis of it. You're going to find I've had these unique experiences early on through college and my early years in the marketplace, and I touch on those different experiences and hoping that you're able to gather some lessons learned and not make the mistakes I
Hmm.
did and make your own mistakes and write your own story. Every story is so unique. And this is just another story to learn from and help you on your journey wherever you're at.
So good. Let's tell them where they can get it, Cameron. If people want to grab this book, maybe they want to buy a few for some young leaders that they know, or for their staff team or people that they're going to be kind of helped in this concept of navigation and discovering your journey. Where can they get it, and what else can they find there?
All right. Yeah, you can go to CameronSingh.com. That's my website. And on the homepage, it's a link to purchase the book, Navigation and Discovery. There's audiobook version. There is also Kindle. And also there's bundles there if you want to gift this to a young person that needs to hear this message. And yeah, would love to get this out there and also hear kind of the feedback about the impact this book is making.
Yeah, let me bring some clarification. Cameron Singh, there's actually an H after the G there at the end. Cameron Singh, SINGH.com. And Cameron,
Mhm.
also, are there any companion resources that go along with the book?
Yeah, there's also a study guide available to help you kind of go through the book, and it challenges you, ask questions on where you're at, wherever you're at with each of the chapters. And it's a really awesome study guide to help you take a deep dive and reflect on what you're reading in navigation and discovery.
Very good. You heard it, everybody. CameronSingh.com is where you can get the book. You can check out some bundles. You can also get the study guide that goes along with it. I know that people are leaning in, Cameron, and probably, some people even maybe even are interested in the whole kind of aviation industry or the concept of being a senior leader at a younger age. People are going to lean in. Are you on social media at all?
Yes, I'm on social media. You can just search my full name, which is Cameron Nathan Singh, and I'm pretty much on every platform out there, and the new one that came out, which is Threads.
Very good. And I know you also do some podcasting yourself. Where can people tune in? And is it a podcast?
Yeah, it's called. I started a podcast, Navigation and Discovery with Cameron Singh, and this is a way to bring other people's stories and shed light to it from all walks of life. And so that is on literally every podcast streaming platform: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, and the links are on my website as well.
Beautiful. CameronSingh.com will point you in the right direction for the podcasts, for the book, and for all the other resources. I want to mention this, Cameron, because we're on the AVAIL podcast, the AVAIL Journal. The AVAIL Journal is an awesome resource, in my opinion, one of the best Christian leadership magazines out there. The AVAIL Journal. If you're not yet subscribed, the first year is on us. We want to give you a free annual subscription. Just go to availjournal.com. Tell them Virgil sent you. AVAILjournal.com. You get your free annual subscription. Would you agree, Cameron, that having resources as leaders is key?
I would say the number one resource is AVAIL that I.
Come on, Cameron. We didn't even pay him for that. This is good. Hey, I want to do something, Cameron, but before we go to maybe a final thought from your heart for our AVAIL audience, I want to do a little bit of kind of rapid response, shoot and fire questions. Is that okay? All right. So the first one is, what do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? I love to play golf. I'm an avid golfer, and I love traveling, and specifically abroad.
Beautiful, beautiful. Favorite destination you've been to?
Favorite destination is the Caribbean, Antigua and Barbuda.
Come on. Thank you, Jesus.
Love it.
All right. What makes you laugh?
What makes me laugh is I don't even know. I guess I watch a lot of comedy, so I just comedy.
Good comedies make you laugh. That's good. That's good.
Yes.
What gets you excited?
What gets me excited is when I see change, when I see change in someone that I've helped.
Good. I like that. What breaks your heart?
What breaks my heart is when I see people lost.
That's good. What worries or concerns do you have about the future in regards to the next generation?
Not finding the proper direction and investing themselves in the worldly things.
Good. And then on the other side, what excites you and encourages you about the future and the next generation?
What excites me is that it's a lost generation and they need to find direction. And I'm hoping that one day that they find that Jesus is their direction.
That's awesome. All right, here's my last question. This is kind of an AVAIL question, but what comes to your mind, and you don't have to be long-winded, just what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear this phrase, the art of leadership?
The art of leadership. Leadership, there's not one way to lead.
Come on.
There's not one way to lead. It's truly an art, and you have to find your own style and hone in on your own style. And don't try to be like someone that you look up to. Take those different traits and make it your own.
Woo! I like it. Drop the mic. Great job on that rapid response, Cameron. I love that. Let's close things off. What's one final thought you want to leave on everybody's heart?
Yeah, one thing that's been on my heart lately is you don't want to define yourself based on your circumstances. You want to strive for higher and continue to push through, and don't let where you came from, your upbringing, define where you're going to go. You write your own story. You, each and every one of you listening, you are unique, and hone in on your own story.
That is awesome. That's a good word. Hey, everybody, you got to go get this book, Navigation Discovery by Cameron Singh, by going to CameronSingh.com. Remember, there's an H. There's a silent H at the end of that, Singh. Cameron Singh, SINGH.com. The book is Navigation and Discovery. The other resources are there. The bundles are there. The podcast is also Navigation and Discovery with Cameron Singh. It's a great resource and a great leader to lean in and learn from. Cameron, on behalf of Dr. Sam Chand, Martijn van Tilburg, our whole AVAIL team, especially the AVAIL podcast team who's behind the scenes doing everything here. We just want to say we're thankful for your life. We're proud of you and we honor you, brother.
Thank you so much, Pastor Virgil. Thank you for having me on. It's been a joy being on this podcast.
Yeah, you're a blessing. And I think, and Declare by Faith, your book is going to be a blessing to many people. Hey, everybody, thanks for leaning in to another episode of the AVAIL podcast. My name is Virgil Sierra, lead pastor of Iglesia Vertical Vertical Church in South Florida, your host right here on the AVAIL podcast, where we dig deep and talk about the art of leadership every single week. We'll catch you next week right here on AVAIL, everybody. God bless. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the AVAIL podcast with our guest, Cameron Singh. You can find out more about Cameron on social media and by going to CameronSingh.com. For more leadership resources, check us out at theartofleadership.com. And make sure to claim your free annual subscription of the AVAIL Journal at AVAILJournal.com. As always, I'm your AVAIL podcast host, Virgil Sierra. Muchas gracias. Thank you for connecting with us to learn the art of leadership here at the AVAIL podcast.